The title of this film is about the appropriation of land, the grabbing of farmland. The person behind the making of the film, who should be standing here in front of the camera, he's black, he's twice my size, but even though he's been granted political asylum in this country, he's too worried for the safety of his relatives back in Africa to be presenting. There are other people in the film who are interviewed and who you will see who choose to remain anonymous for the same reason. So here I am, a native of this green and pleasant land, an ex-colonial power preaching to African leaders, to governments, commercial interests against neo-colonialism and exploitation. This may sound ironic, but I believe here in the West we have favourable conditions and have a responsibility to our friends in the South. Civilization is facing a critical moment. In fact, the whole planet is facing a critical moment. A recent well-researched documentary was titled Planet for Sale, and that is very much the case in this film. And in the next 20 minutes or so I want to show you parts of Africa that are up for grabs. And I want to show you the consequences of some of this senseless exploitation of people, animals, the environment, and suggest some of the ways in which things could be changed. Although large stretches of Africa are arid and desert-like, others are rich and very fertile. Large rivers like the sources of the White Nile and numerous fresh water lakes sustain a rich wildlife, as you will see in the film. They also guarantee the life of numerous tribespeople, whether nomad or permanently settled. The existence of these people depends on a delicate balance of ecosystems. They are related to the seasonal flooding of the rivers, to the dry and rainy seasons, and so forth. The herds of cattle, sheep or camel pertaining to these people graze the land adjacent to the rivers and the lakes. And so it happens that this land is now coveted by large commercial companies for food or mass fuel production. An hour or so from South Sudan, 500,000 hectares of forest and farmland were leased out for periods of 50 to 100 years. This means that commercial companies, with their shareholders living abroad, exporting the profits out of Africa, are in a rush to get the maximum productivity out of the soil. Intensive farming, including chemical fertilizers, insecticides, irresponsible irrigation systems, mile upon mile of forest trees are being cut, the undergrowth burned, rivers diverted. It is the great scramble for farmland. It is worthwhile stating that land sales and resettlement are also used by Ethiopian authorities as an internal political weapon. While the dominant language and power is in the hands of Amharic speakers, with a predominant affiliation to the Christian Orthodox Church, demographically, they represent a minority. All attempts at recognition and equal rights on the part of other groups, like the Oromo, are harshly treated. Here in Gambella, for instance, riots in 2003 ended with over 300 people dead and many more injured. Land sales followed shortly after. As we shall see, this was also the case in Awassa, where demonstrations were roughly dispersed, resulting in 38 of the demonstrators killed, and as a follow-up, land sales. These were Sudamu farmers.
I guess that first I fear that because a government didn't allow any boys to arise on this to prevent the land grab. So I think for this opportunity to have raid, I think second body will hear my voice that, and maybe if there is any help from second hand to solve this problem, I may have it. I think the community is affecting by this coming of this company, because the first one they took the land of the farmers, and they are cutting down the trees what were farmers, the indigenous people were using the land, and there is many natural resources that destroyed by this company. In other side, they will tell to government that to the community that we bought this land from government, so you didn't any right to say something on this land. You didn't have any right on this land. It is a dark future for Ilia community.
Bete chano bere vela puro bono. Ka bete de kon ka chwa ka chon pur jor wa puro ka pur kare chon mano pur chon. Uri to mo wa gere ko lum kare mano gere ko gale. Ko ara ka jenne ke bet. Ba puro to de puro to ka chara to jijite gi me de chawo ye. Ba tang di che yang na lum ni de lum kare ni de nyaara ba jenne tu ne banga no bere ngana me je gere ko gale. Ko ara bere rewi le bere ka ka bang jenne me je gere ko gale ka pa ko wata. Ba lum kare ni de nyaara ba gindong. Ko ara ka jara be ka wel dere re chana yewa. De jijite ko bete mar mu nyana. Ko ana en go beri bete ja ton mo ber jiwa ja. Ka bere ka jamme mo wati wa ge ponit budu na wa poti ye pa to je ni kare. Ngo ko ye ya bo. Ba.
Kare. Wani man ka pota man na watara. Ka je ka tumeno we ko wa po bere che we ko me ko. De puro kare. Chamito o de ka gwani pro wo ko namu buti. Wara no kel ko burri kel wori pre chek ja kel bet. Wara wa chama ja kel ma pota da. De jeni mo go no wo ka ga na go. Mo go no tumo ne jeni na go no pon ngot pen ka ga na go. Ni jeni da mo chek je. Wo pra wo kuni je. O pota cham. Wo ko ye ke nyule me. Wo ko ye ke nyi wote. O pota ke chama kuni che chan. Nyi pota ko kal pai. Ko ara di ti nyi ko ne gya ne mari. Ko ara na de lu viro ke geni huron de cham. Mara po ke cham. Ko ara no beta na wa chama geni. Karkaje. Ke te mana picho ni ri no. Na ma tu ne bonga e. Reo be jot ka ga ma de chama e. Mua wa kom ne re pro ke gela ka go ne cham aputu ne bonga. Ko ara no nyengi pri ro nyi bet. Ke le bel bonga to ma de juro. Teng chama. Ko ara na ka mana picho ni ri no. Kala tu re puto ni jeni mua wa bir ne de chama o putu ne bongo ni. Pudi ga ngot pin gi bet kel ma pudi ay bet kel ñu le ma de juro ba ci wana put bet de jaka na kel kar kanya gin me ñinga ñi jata kara ma de ci wala bongo aw jo do ga ka ko we ga no cior pin ka ga na akel mana bu gin bere ne ko wi kar ka ci ne ge maña goni ko perre ge kunyi kare na ko ina ke kunya kare pun mwana mo je pur ke puro wani to wa ke lu ko to na teng uri mwana mo wa no lan man ti ji goni ko bung jeni ma joro joro bung kan ma joro lum to ye to ko pera wa geta ka geni ke lu ko no lan man tu ne uri ne chingi gera be na po ba lan to po chingi ke piar ja do.
We asked them so many kind of things, but they didn't do for us. For water, this is not company who did it. This is from our region who do this. Our government is who do this, but not company. Company doesn't do anything for us. Just this is what we are drinking, our water. When their cow will go to eat a grass, they will die because there is some kind of chemical there. And our many cow dead by this way, by chemical way. When I finish school, I think I want to learn law. To me be our president, to me become president of in my country, to us make they go away from our country.
Jame mete miti we ko jiwani ko ro pit wani kitene tangi sa manano ni beta yeno wana pit kiri da abu da rigangati dog bet kel ki ko goni da mu ti we ko ani jiwani kel ma donga ni piyo karkanyen no eno no tumena na wadonga kareno dana ngati mana jitu ka kare no kore chwaru ti jiri to no puti wat jami mwa wati megwani jiwani eno no to no wapi sa manano no ji moine no wasing wala no potera no nyoren kare no piti no de ni chwa ni ti jige o shemwa uri o gere jiwani kulum ke jenni eno no to no wapi karkanyen no juri mana ga woto o pipinja kan no kujwani no pipinga ga no kujwani atiyo ko ne abu ko jami matop jiwani ne nyira ne tipo ko kwar jiwa ne tipo ko tupi jiwa koretiyo eno put ne tie jiwa koretiyo te jami mo go be asara jiwani ba koretiyo eno wani no kile no beto eno kishwa wani ko biya gwani bet bangi mo watiyo ka gen lume banga mo wagere ka ge jeni banga be jeni ni nyape nyina goni nam taw banga mo ka kan to adere taw bangin me ber mo siak jiwan mo watiyo ka goni be dual man chen.
I was born in the village and I grew up here. For us, everything changed when the Indian company came. Before everything we needed came from the forest. From the forest we got grass and trees and fruit and useful herbs for building food, medicine. When the Karaturi company came, they cut the forest, they took the land without asking the village people, without our permission. They promised them many things. They promised water and building materials. They promised clinics and classrooms. Till now we saw very little. Now no one listens. If anybody is ready to listen, please help us.
Awassa is one of 6 very large freshwater lakes in the Great Rift Valley in the south of Ethiopia. Small-scale fishing is practiced side by side with traditional methods of farming. A large number of waterfowl, as well as larger animals like hippos and crocodiles, are abundant. As may be expected, this area is too often targeted by commercial enterprises based abroad. The world's largest acreage of greenhouses are dominating the access to many of the lakes, fenced off and obstructing the access. Almost all are owned by Saudi, German or Dutch companies. The south of Ethiopia is inhabited mostly by various minority peoples. The largest of these minority groups are the Oromo. These people have restricted access to their traditional grazing and fishing locations, and on a political level they face regular persecution. It is not well known, perhaps, that while Ethiopia hosts many famine victims from neighbouring Sudan and Somalia, with the help of international agencies, over 20,000 of its own people find asylum in these same neighbouring countries. As expected, these are mostly Oromos, officially recognised by the UNHCR as political refugees.
The Ethiopian government is almost selling the lands of farmers to the abroad investors in the name of investment. For this, many farmers, especially from Oromia region, Amara, Gambela, and the southern people, they have been evacuating from their homelands because the lands are being sold for investments. This means I know that is it is nearest to Ethiopia, and they can attack, they can arrest him. The Ethiopian security agencies are moving in this country. That's the problem, even. Recognized. There is some security problems in the countries actually. For example, Ethiopian government when it wants, he can take anybody who wants to arrest. For example, in last 3 months, around three refugees and 8 asylum seekers were arrested by Ethiopian government. So they taken and abducted they taken from here to Ethiopia. As far as I know, the refugees, those are recognized under international community, are around 450 families. With the collaboration of both countries, Somaliland country and the Ethiopian government are working together. That's why most of the time, somebody who Ethiopian government wants him, Somaliland government is going to give to him. That's why there are some refugees have been arrested from here because they have a common benefits. That's why also they have treaties which they agree on. For example, as you know, most of the Ethiopians, or as you know, here is most of the refugees are Oromos. As you know, Oromos have been evacuated from the country or have been persecuted from the country for the political opinion. Most of them are why they support Oromo Liberation Front.
At least by January 28, 20 people deporting. By January 21, 3 Ethiopian Oromo people to deporting. That people are still 20 years, one by one, you are taking. together to Somaliland.
The UNICEF of Sargesa, Geneva and the other wallet should recognize our problem. He said, I came here for security problem. He said, I met a lot of problems. For example, I have been arrested for a lot of time in the prison, and then I met a lot of problems, and when I have been in Ethiopia, and I came here. He said, because he said if I will return back in my home country, I was exposed to kill it. He said, I have been in prison for 10 years in Ethiopia. And also, when the UNICEF of Hargeisa, they can see all this, and that she said, I have been in prison for 10 years, and they said, the UNICEF of Hargeisa said that the refugees in Somaliland, they don't have any security problem, they said. So we have a security problem, the UNICEF said that you are telling false. They laugh on to us, they said. Now she said, even sometimes I decide, she said, to kill myself because I made a lot of problems. Even now I don't have any solution. When I tell the UNICEF of Hargeisa that the problem that I have been meeting before and the problem that I've been living now is a little different, she say. So please, she say, humanity, even you are not from the UNICEF, she said to
Mali Buja. Malta de Kalidet.
While these refugees are being interviewed here, over on the Somali coast, tons of food in the form of aid packages are awaiting to be unloaded. These are destined not only for Somalis or Ethiopians who fled to Somaliland, but also to normal Ethiopians residing in their own homes. 2 million people out of a population of around 75 depend on imported food aid in Ethiopia. This means that the tons of food grown on Ethiopian soil and shipped to Saudi Arabia or India could have been feeding its own people. The point that we want to stress in this film is not that modern agriculture modern farming shouldn't be encouraged in Ethiopia or in Africa. Food production is dearly needed, but local people should have access to the land to graze their animals, access to water, and the delicate eco-balance needs to be respected. And that is clearly not what is happening in these cases of commercial farming. Finally, responsible legislation, monitoring at an international level are called for. Peacekeeping forces need to be here to protect the human rights of these people, because this land, any land, is not just up for grabs.